Welcome to 5.6 half angle identities. We will start here with example 6. Verify tangent squared of x over 2 equals secant x plus cosine x minus 2 all over secant x minus cosine x. We will start with the right-hand side. I will go ahead and write secant x as 1 over cosine x. To clear the denominators, we can multiply top and bottom by cosine x. On the top, it will distribute to all three terms. Cosine x over cosine x just gives us 1. Cosine x times cosine x is cosine squared x. And 2 times cosine x gives us that minus 2 cosine x. On the bottom, cosine x over cosine x gives us 1. And the minus comes down. Cosine x times cosine x is cosine squared x. So I will reorder it so that it's 1 minus 2 cosine x plus cosine squared x. This way it's in the form of a perfect square trinomial. Let's go ahead and factor the top. The first two terms have to multiply to 1, so that's going to be 1 and 1. The last two will multiply to cosine squared, so cosine x, and they will both be negative. And again, you could check and see that this multiplies out to give us that negative 2 cosine x in the middle. And on the bottom, we can factor that 1 plus cosine x, 1 minus cosine x. At this stage, there's a few different routes we could go, but I'll just continue with this one since we're factoring the top. We'll go ahead and factor the bottom. And notice the 1 minus cosine x's cancel. So we get 1 minus cosine x over 1 plus cosine x. And at this time, you might look, okay, how does this relate to the tangent squared of the half angle? So looking over here, if I have this 1 minus cosine x over 1 plus cosine x, I'm seeing something here. So now I'm going to go over to the left-hand side, and I'm going to say, okay, if I take the half angle for tangent, this first one here, and I square it, squaring a positive or a negative, no matter what, will result in a positive. And then the square and the square root can cancel. So thus I am left with 1 minus cosine x over 1 plus cosine x. So now I have shown that the left-hand side must equal the right-hand side. Because first we showed the right-hand side equals 1 minus cosine x over 1 plus cosine x, and then we showed the left-hand side equals 1 minus cosine x over 1 plus cosine x. I just want to show you an alternate method. Going back to this step here where we had 1 minus 2 cosine x plus cosine squared x all over 1 minus cosine squared x. We could also replace the denominator with sine squared x using the Pythagorean identity. Sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. And similarly, we could factor that top piece into 1 minus cosine x, 1 minus cosine x. And we could write that as a perfect square. So 1 minus cosine x, quantity squared, over sine squared x. And what we might notice is that both the numerator and the denominator are squared. We can actually write that as 1 minus cosine x over sine x. All of that is squared. And now we can see that this is that final half angle identity for tangent. So this equals tangent of x over 2, all of that squared, which equals the left-hand side. So therefore, we have verified the identity. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.